So Pete, I have to ask you because we work together a lot. First of all, I'm grateful that we get to work together, just so you know. And I take for granted a lot the stuff that you've done. I mean, because I know you don't talk about it a lot. You know, a lot of people don't share stuff in your world and stuff, but I want to be able to learn more about just your career, what you've done, you know, what you like best, what you learned the most. And for people that don't know, obviously, you flew for an incredible team called the Blue Angels. And so what was the years you were in the Blue Angels?
2016, 17, and 18.
Okay. And before that, like, I didn't even realize today how many carrier landings that you've had. Like,
Yep.
so.
228. And I remember every single one of them, but who's counting?
But
Right?
now you were flying the Hornet then, right?
Super Hornet.
Straight, it was a Super Hornet. Okay. So were you always in it? What was before the Super Hornet?
So for my career, before that was the T-45 in Meridian, Mississippi.
Okay.
So I started out, I was enlisted for about 8 years. You know, as you pointed out, we're our hardest critics, right? And sometimes it's really challenging because sometimes people don't take pressure very well. Sometimes people take pressure incredibly well, you know? And as you go through life, we all have our own versions of what we don't think we could accomplish. I guarantee I could ask you some things that you'd be like, there's no way on earth I'd ever do that. There's no way I would achieve that. But sometimes you break through your own glass ceiling. And most of the time, it's because you had a mentor that kind of taught you how to do these things. So for me, you know, I joined the Navy right out of high school, and I always had the dream of flying. My dad got his pilot's license at 14 years old, and my dad made it pretty big time in the computer world and in the tech world. So I looked up to him and I said, well, my dad didn't go to school. I don't need to go to school. I can do it without it. But I knew I wanted to go to sea. I knew I wanted to work on airplanes, and I knew I wanted to travel. And people will call me kind of a nerd, but I was already in ROTC in high school. And I knew I wanted to be a Navy guy because there's just, I mean, when you look at this and you just see this, there's power applied to this. Whether you're attached to it or not, there's something that draws you in. It either repels you or it draws you in. There's not just like, oh, that's cool, you know? And my family came down here when I was a young kid, and we, no joke, stood right up there. I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and my dad lined all us up, put our little fingers underneath each jet, these exact jets that are hanging right here, right now, and said, guys, let's take a picture. And that picture resonated with me. Coming down, when I enlisted in the Navy, I did electronics training here back in 2000.
So you were in maintenance before?
In maintenance,
Okay.
aviation maintenance, electronics, radio, radar, wiring, displays. I've worked on F-14s, 18s, E-2s, P-3s, C-2s, S-3s, prowlers, intruders. Worked on one of the last intruder parts that came through right as I was transitioning into maintenance. And I hold my enlisted time very, very close to my chest because there's some tough times inside the military. And the men and women that are enlisted ranks, they go through things that most people can't even fathom. But it's a cooperate to graduate mentality. You find a mentor that I had. We moved a lot. I moved 30 times in the past 20 plus years of my life. And I would create a 5-year plan. And it wouldn't be, where am I going to be in 5 years? It said, what am I going to accomplish inside those 5 years?
Yeah.
So I could look back and say, man, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did that. So my first tour was in Oceania. I was working on F-14s at the time. And I set a goal that I said, I'm going to be an E5 dual warfare qualified, which is air warfare and surface warfare, personal qualifications that you can get above and beyond of what your requirements are, something you can go out and do. And I wanted to be a CDI, which is called a collateral duty inspector. Those are big ticket items that will help you gain rank in your enlisted ranks at the time. And I accomplished that goal. I deployed twice on the George Washington and on the USS Enterprise, CVN 65. And I am kind of nerded out over those kind of things back then because anytime I had gone on a cruise, I really wanted a yearbook, a cruise book. And I still reference those even today. A guy that I worked for when I was an instructor in Virginia Beach, he was a Prior Blue. Opie Wally, a good friend of mine, he's at FedEx. We were talking just a couple weeks ago, and we just found out that we were both on the same deployment when he was a young JO and I was an enlisted guy. Really bad picture, but hey, we all have those, right? After that, I left Oceana, and then I went down to Jacksonville to go train on P3s, and then out to Point Mugu, which is out in California. I had a really, really good mentor of mine, my CO, Captain Greg Munning. He really did start the fire where, he said, "Hey, Tyler, where's your officer package?" And I was going to school at the time. This was around the 2006 timeframe. And really, I wanted to go to school.
Were you flying yet?
No, I was still enlisted.
Okay.
Yep. So I'd work from 7 to 4, and then I'd go to class from 5 to 10. Took me about 2 years to get a 4-year degree because I worked smarter, not harder. But he had asked me, passing him one day, he said, "Tyler, where's your officer package?" So, "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "That's exactly my point. Like, where's your officer package?" So that kind of cued me in. Like, it's time to go get smart, become an adult, and do something with my life. So I put in an officer package and was lucky enough to get selected. And it was a different world because going from the enlisted ranks, I joined prior to 9/11. So it was a different cadre of people that were joining the military back then. And it really wasn't as difficult as I expected once I got on the inside to excel. If you had a smile on your face, right uniform, and a willingness to learn with being humble, you're going to go real far in the military. And when I came down here after finishing OCS in Newport, Rhode Island, I realized everyone that I was with in flight school had worked their butts off to get there. And it was very humbling. I was like, wait a second, I'm now one of the older guys here because people are coming straight out of the academy, people coming out of RTC programs, very few OCS guys that are coming in, and then us very few Mustang guys that were prior enlisted. I had a little bit more time. And actually, back then, I believe it's still the same, but you have to commission by your 26th birthday or you're not going to become a pilot. Yeah, that's the cutoff in the Navy. Don't quote me on that, but that's what it was when I was going through. And I commissioned 2 months before my 26th birthday. So I was really bringing it right up to the wire. I had 0 flight experience prior. Anything that I knew through my flying career, the Navy had taught me. So I flew with my dad every once in a while in the passenger seat, but I had one flight in my logbook.
What were you flying and when?
My dad flew A36s. He flew 182 RGs, stuff like that. Really just, he fell in love with aviation. He really did. It was kind of became his hobby there for a while, but it was something that was very, very special to him. And now to see his children starting to fly. My oldest brother flies now. He does stuff with Civil Air Patrol up in Minneapolis and takes his kids flying and doing things like that. So it's special to see what aviation does for future generations and for my father looking back and seeing his offspring and what's going on with that. So
now, did you train here in Pensacola?
I did.
Was that your first flight?
So after I got commissioned, came down to Pensacola, we do a thing called introductory flight. And so I did 25 hours at Miracle Strip down in Destin. And I had a kid that, when I soloed, he cut my shirt off and said trained by the young pup, because I swear the kid was 15 years younger than me. So he did the 25 hours with me in Miracle Strip. Then I came over here and started API right on the other side of the base.
Okay, wait a minute. So stop, because I want to see this. We happen to be at a really cool point here. So how many times have you been here and been on this stage?
So that is, on the stage. Oh my gosh. It's very special. Several times. Yep. Yeah, we've had Blue Angel end of seasons parties here. I've done safety stand downs with the air wings here. I've done commissionings here. I've done retirements here. That's actually our year right there on the screen that you're watching. Yeah. That's over San Francisco. That's Boss Bernanke flying there in the diamond and the vertical brake. And it just is, it's unbelievable. For me, it still makes me want to pinch myself to look at this. You can see there's Boss's helmet right there as he's flying directly nose low at Hook Pier, right there in the aerobatic box. The Golden Gate's right there off the corner there on the west side.
It's Alcatraz.
Yep. And even though this stuff for me is in the rearview mirror, now I have such a burning desire for the mentorship piece to show somebody else as they come up to be like, it's not done. It's now your turn. I'm going to hand the torch to you. And I know you feel the same way as you're now in more of an instructor mentorship role to be like, this is kind of a never-ending self-licking ice cream cone. Like, I've done my job and now it's your turn. You carry the torch. Let's see how far you can go with it. And it's just something special as I get to see these young aviators, these prospective aviators, even while we've been here for the past few days. It's nostalgic for me to be here,
Yep.
but it's also uber impressive to be like, there's still those souls out there that's like, I'll do it.
Yeah, I got
I'll
you.
do it.
I want to hear more about your story when you went down the Magic Mile. You said, is that what it was? Miracle Mile?
Miracle Strip.
Miracle Strip. Okay.
Yep, down in Destin.
I want to hear from that in a second. But as you like stand here now, I mean, for you, it's got to be incredible to have these jets flying behind you and just think about your path and your journey and stuff. Like a lot of young aviators are probably looking at this stuff and saying, "Oh my God, I wish I could. I wish I could." Or what are some of the things that you would say that really the things that got you through all those hurdles that get you there? And I bring it up because you talked a few times about certain stuff, and we talk about, you talked about your package, and we talk about you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I talk about a lot about too many people mistake activity with results, and these things might sound minuscule, but if you don't have a plan, if you don't have your goals set and break that down to what are the activities I'm going to do to achieve those goals and stuff, you'll never get there. So like, what are some of the things that you had to do to get to the point where you're standing right here today, being able to be under these aircraft and have flown with the Blue Angels? Or what are some of the big tips that you could give to some of the younger aviators?
I know you and I share the same mentality of the motivation piece, to where if somebody says you can't do something, that's just more fuel on the fire. That you're like, oh, I can't do that? Okay, now I am fully focused on that. And that's specific to each individual, right? So for me, another saying that I like to say is, you can't do open heart surgery by yourself. There's no way. If you have a heart attack, you're going to go in there and do it by yourself. You need help. You need other hands and other people to help you get through those situations. So the motivation is where it starts. If this is even remotely interesting to you, that's step one.
Yeah.
And then building the process takes time. And in this current age that we live in, it's very difficult to get somebody out of the instant gratification mindset that we're in America, where they're like, yeah, but I could just buy that and I'll just do it tomorrow. That's not how this works. Aviation takes time. It takes time. It takes time. And it takes constant motivation to get out there and do that. So for me, I was actually on the flight deck, and I remember asking one of the guys on the flight deck, as I watched the Tomcat go into tension as it descended down, got under pressure, they were building up the catapult pressure and launched that thing off the flight deck. And I'm like, how on earth do I do that? I want to do that. And they're like, bro, you're enlisted, you're not going to be able to do that. I'm like, thanks, man. I know that. How do I get there? And they're like, well, you have to go to school. So, call signs feedback, because I like food. Looking at it, once again, perspective here. If you look at the whole pie, it's going to scare you. Because you're like, wait a second, I got to go to school, I got to pass that, I got to do good there. That takes dedicated time. I have to go to flight school, I have to pass that, and then if I pass that, then I have to go learn on another airplane to eventually get to jets. That was my specific path. But it may not be somebody else's path. They may want to go helicopters, multi-engine, C-130s, whatever, fly commercial, fly RJs, whatever. Everybody that's in that industry has had a bad day. Doesn't matter who it is. You find a millionaire, say, dude, did you hit the gold? Did you hit a grand slam on your first swing? None of them are going to say yes, right? They're all going to say, no, I learned from this, I learned from that, I learned from this. And ultimately, what helped calm me down is I remember looking back and saying, you know what? Every person in a flight suit that I look up to has had a bad day. There's no way I'm that bad that maybe I don't think I can get through this, And that actually quietly calmed me down. That I'm like, all right, going through SEER school, there's a big fear of going through SEER school. You're like, well, everybody in a flight suit's gone through SEER school, so it can't be that bad. Now, yes, did it suck? Absolutely, it sucked. It's the best training I've ever got in my entire life. And as you build on these small victories, it's self-motivating, because then you look back and you're like, oh, I accomplished that. Okay. I accomplished that. Okay, man, I got through this. All right, you know what? Maybe I can do this. And when I got selected to the team, it was my second time trying. I failed my first time, didn't make it, but I still had that burning desire. And when I made the team, it was a whole nother set of stress that was now placed on my shoulders, because the dream of wanting to make that, which is such a small percentage chance of people getting through it,
Yep.
But I was one of the very lucky ones that was able to be selected and fly. Now the whole different stress of going, now they're going to find out I'm actually not a good pilot. And it scared the crap out of me. It really did. It genuinely scared me. But now balancing having to learn my role on the team, every year it's slightly different, while also mentoring and motivating those behind me, now it becomes a balancing act. But that's where you rely on STEM power. So for the people that we try to motivate just to get their foot in the door, what is the first thing that scares people out of aviation? Money, right? I wanted to work smarter, not harder, so that's where I joined the military and let them pay for my entire flight school. I didn't really pay anything for any of my training. I got paid to do it, which in this day and age, that takes a lot for somebody to wrap their head around. Most of the time they're like, oh yeah, it takes about $20,000, $30,000 for you to get your private pilot's license, you know? So to sit there and say, wait a second, you can get paid to do this, that was a big goal of mine. I was already in the military, so I knew I wanted to do something like that. And I wanted to accomplish something that was so difficult for me personally.
That sound familiar?
That sounds exactly familiar.
Sounds like a Blue Angel
There they
taking
are,
off.
wrapping right around us right now.
The sound of freedom.
Sound of freedom right there.
But
F-18 Super Hornet.
so you would just keep going. You just
But when I arrived at the goal, and I tell a lot of people that through the public speaking side of the house, is saying, pick a personal goal for you that's so unattainable that when you achieve it, you're so high in your mind that there's nobody on par with you. So you kind of have to have a quiet celebration with yourself because you surprised yourself that you got so high in your goals that you're like, there's nobody else around to celebrate.
You don't even have to, for an aviator, it's not even that you have to get at the level that you were at. You know, I talk about one of the most gratifying things ever is being a pilot because it's a lot of work. But when you get there, it's such a feeling of achievement because it's not like running down to the DMV and get your license.
Yep.
I mean, and I think that's something else that the younger people don't realize is going through the process of getting your pilot's license also changes and makes you better in other areas of your life.
Yep.
Like you think differently, you operate differently, you know. Situational awareness is not just about being a pilot. Situational awareness in life it's affected me. So there is so much more benefits to becoming a pilot, even just for somebody at my level, not even thinking about people at your level. So to me, that's just like, and then I just look at the small stuff I do from whatever, flying aerobatics or extras or, you know, jets or whatever. It's just been an amazing journey that made such a difference for me. But what were some of the, tell me some of the, you talked a little bit about the hurdles, but what were some of the things that really were like those milestones for you that you're like, oh, like this was the thing that really got me to that next level? Or what were some of the really positive things about it?
One of the big milestones for me was graduating college. I didn't think I'd ever do it. I genuinely, still to this day, am surprised that I graduated college because in the beginning, it wasn't a goal of mine. It's like, I was actually frustrated that I had to go off this track to go get this sheet of paper to then get back on the same track that I wanted, and I couldn't continue on my track until I got the sheet of paper. And so like you, similarly, where somebody tells me, hey man, you got to do this, like, and I was forced, not really forced, but forced mentally to be like, I have to focus to get this done because I won't get to do something that I really want to do if I don't go get this done. So graduating college was a very big goal of mine. And when I found out that I got selected for officer, no joke, stationed in Point Mugu in California, I remember when my CO called and said, hey Feed, or Tyler in this case, congratulations, you've been selected for ensign for a pilot slot. No joke, I kid you not, I went outside and I ran around the building. Full Forrest Gump style. I was so excited I had to find a way to get the energy out somehow.
Like the Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The meme that you see where he's running out there on the ground, you know, and I just couldn't believe it. I was blown away, and I wanted to tell everybody. I didn't know what to do next. The next set of stress hit. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Like I did the unthinkable in my own mind. Many people have done it before me, and I could not have done it without the people that I worked for and worked with. And to think about that when I said, okay, I'm now going from a fleet mindset back to a training mindset, that took a lot to comprehend. That was a big pill to swallow, to be like, man, I've already been doing this for about 7 years, and now I'm going to go back into a training command but now it's to learn how to be an officer.
So then you went, of course, then you'd end up going through all your training, and then you end up in a Super Hornet.
That was another big milestone. So back then, going through the flight school train, I started here, Pensacola, and then I went to Milton, up the road just a little bit, and was attached to VT6 flying T-34s. Depending on how you do there at the time, depended on whether you went helicopters, multi-engine, tail hook, weren't even jets yet, tail hooks, you could be C2, E2, or pretty much anything that lands on a carrier. And that was, you know, everybody was fighting for that. There's people out there that's like, I want helicopters. There's people out there that said, I want to fly multi-engine because I want to live in hotels. And everybody has their goals in life, right? So I didn't care what I flew at that point. Quietly, I really wanted to fly jets, but I would have been happy with going tailhook and going back to carrier aviation because I hold my enlisted time very close to my chest to be like, I can't believe I'm on a carrier. One of the best moments of my entire enlisted career, I was just telling the guys earlier, is I'm 19 years old. Am I 19 yet? I think I'm 19. I'm 19 years old. We are going down the Suez Canal, and I'm hanging my feet off the front of the USS George Washington. I'm just literally sitting with my feet hanging off the flight deck on the front of the boat. There's a sniper rifle right here. There's a tank right there escorting us, and there's a tank right there escorting us as we go through wake speed down the Suez Canal. And I'm like, wonder what my high school bros are doing right now. And I'm sitting here dangling my feet off the front of the carrier. That was a big moment for me as an enlisted kid. And then building that rapport, kicking the can down the road, now being told in VT6, I got selected for tailhook. I mean, it was another shaky moment where I'm like, I can't believe this. I can't believe I got this far. I can't believe I got this far. Then to go to VT9 in Meridian, Mississippi, there's a break point there. Or depending on how you do through your flight school train, at some point, they're going to have to break off the E2C2 people and break off the pointy nose people. And I made it through that. And they said, you're going to fly fighters. That was another big moment for me where I'm like, there's no way. I can't see old Fat Davies sitting in a friggin' Hornet and flying. I'm like, there's no way. I'm just a maintainer. I just want to fix stuff, you know? But I continuously pushed myself. There's people that go through flight school that's like, I can't do it, I quit. I was just telling some of the guys that I was telling Faith and telling Will, it's like, to go through this, even at their point in their career, they're already almost a decade into their decision that this is something they want to do. And I knew for me in my career, I made it this far, I'm going until somebody else tells me no. I'm going to shoot for the stars. So then when they found out that I'm going to fly Super Hornets, 2-seat, the F-18F variant, that was another big moment. It's another big shining moment. I'm like, I can't believe it. Then it really hit hard because you spent so much time in the training command. Now it kind of flips and you're like, no, you're a seagoing aviator now. Now it's carrier time. Now it's combat time.
Yep.
Now it's time. The stuff that you're going to train on is going to keep you and your wingmen alive and potentially the men and women on the ground.
A little different mindset.
Now there's a real flak jacket full of stress that you're going to put on. That's like, all right, now I actually have to learn this stuff because other people's lives depend on it, including my own, my family's, our children, all the stuff out there that you think about. Our children want us to come home. So now you're like, I have to learn this stuff because I want to go home and see my family. Yeah.
How long was it when you were flying the Super Hornet up to the day that you found out you're going into the Blue Angels?
So I got my wings in June of 2010. Flew it till about 2015. So I did a full tour on the West Coast in VFA 22, the Redcocks, deployed CAG 17, Carl Vinson, became an instructor for about a year at VFA 106 in Oceana, second time applying, then got selected to the elite United States Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron. That was a full breakdown moment. That was like a...
Where were you when you heard?
In Virginia Beach.
Okay, you were there.
Right, and...
so how'd you find out?
Got the call. Well, it's a very long, interesting process on how that goes, but you call into... Everybody has a very specific time when they call in to the team. The boss answers after finals week, and you go through this whole process, and then you find out whether you made the team or did not make the team. And I found out I made the team, and I actually screamed on the phone. I was like, what? I cannot believe that. And it was a very special moment. They're like, congratulations, man. They were very calm. They were very chill about it. They're like, dude, welcome to the team, man. It's awesome. We'll see you in a couple months. And then now, once again, a whole nother gear shift. Now all of a sudden you're going to a public eye. You're now going to have to think about moving again, coming down to Pensacola,
You're
doing
actually
all
flying
this.
close to other planes?
Flying close to other planes, much closer than this, you know, and it's a different level of stress as you go through it. But once
So
again,
tell me, before you go on that, what were the first calls you made when you found out?
my parents,
Yeah.
extended family, high school buddies, college friends, other aviator buddies of mine in the Navy, telling the children, we've got a daughter, a son at the time, and telling them, like, Dad's going to the Blue Angels, this is incredible. It just sinks in slowly. You're like, all right, this is happening.
So what'd you tell your parents when you called them?
I said, guys, you won't believe it, but I made it. And they're like,
So they knew you were going for it?
oh yeah, they definitely knew. Yeah, I talk to my parents every day. I'm lucky enough to still have both my parents alive. So my dad and I talk, well, both of my parents and I talk every day pretty much. And so they were waiting. They knew that was the day. And I tried to play it off like, hey guys, yeah, I got the call. And then I let them have it, and my mom is like the one that's behind you, sweeping up every memory imaginable. So she's screaming in the background. I can hear her losing her mind, and my dad's very, very stoic in how he speaks. So he's like, well done, that's awesome. And I guarantee you hung up the phone and then probably punched a wall in excitement or something, you know? So that was incredible. It's an incredible experience. And to kind of wrap it all up, being here, spending time with you, with all the guys that it takes to put on E3 as a mentorship and education role, is really, it's kind of a spiritual moment for me, because it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from or what you fly. It's an entire family of aviators.
Yep.
And we can all learn from each other. And it's our turn to say, look, guys, it's possible. Look, I mean, all the airplanes that we see here in the museum, listening to the Blues flying, watching these guys taking the next step in aviation, it calms me down, because I'm like, you know what? We're good. We're good. You know, we do what we do to mentor those so they can do what they do. And then the circle of life continues in aviation.
Absolutely. Get the chance to help others.
Yeah,
for
man.
sure.
You bet.
This has been an incredible week being at this incredible place. I mean, I got to do stuff I could. You talked about it. You never have thought decades ago that you could be sitting here saying, I can't believe I'm actually filming with you right now in front of these planes, or today walking around in an incredible rehab facility out there and maintenance facility, touching planes as one of 3 that just got found in the bottom of the lake, the Great Lakes, and looking at what they're doing here. I mean, just the whole experience in this place has been incredible, and it's so great that we can now start to at least share some of this stuff with the next generation and things. So,
you know, one thing that's really interesting I'll part with is that, you know, we have a 3-month-old at home, and, you know, my wife's about to go fly the F-35 at home in Madison, and coming from the Viper world to now going to the F-35 world, she is switching her mindset as well to now going to a 5th-gen fighter, and it's wonderful for me to sit there and be able to support her for those decisions that she's doing. But I can see the stress on her face as well, because she knows it's a whole new airframe, it's a whole new plane, it's a whole new set of understanding and a whole new set of tactics. And now I get to be the one to help lift her up, to be like, you got it, babe, go crush it. And it's awesome. I love aviation. It's great. My favorite airplane of all time, J3 Cub. All the things I've flown, I take a Cub any day.
yeah,
Because it's the low and slow is the best way.
it's a fun
That's why I
flight.
want to fly your airplane. I want to fly that
We're
Cub.
doing it this week. Awesome. It's
Thanks,
been
bro.
great. I'm glad
brother.
people can learn more about you.
You bet, man.
All right.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Take
your time.